Passing through the veil of mystery, seeking answers no one is brave to ask. This is Bound to Truth.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bound to Truth. This is Christopher J. Lopez. Another Halloween episode with Stephanie, a great friend, mentor, and also amazing singer. She's going to tell her ghost stories and her experiences tonight for this Halloween special, just like we did with Joy last weekend. And before we get into it, before we dive deep into what she's talking about, how can you just Bound to Truth and before.com? Questions, comments, insults. You want to reach Stephanie out to hear about more of her stories, or just like, hey, when's your next band playing? Which we'll get to about the name of the band. Absolutely, definitely reach out, email, and you can also hit us on Facebook. You can hit us on Audible. You can hit us on Instagram. What else? TikTok, my goodness, just many platforms. Spotify, Buzzsprouts, and other platforms you enjoy. I definitely want to introduce Stephanie here again, and want to give you the platform to talk to her story. So, Stephanie, how are you doing? How was your evening? It's midweek. I know here in Washington, everybody's about the Mariners right now.
So they are all about the Mariners right now, 100%. So
it's huge, but
that's cool. We're kicking ass, so that's awesome.
Yeah. And so, Stephanie, before we get to your ghost stories, you're an amazing singer. I told you tonight, before we started this podcast, you have a mix between Janis Joplin, the Fleetwood Mac lead singer, which I forgot her name, and Heart. And I love that, the voice and everything that you sing. It's just amazing. There's a lot of, not just the talent behind your singing, but just the joy and the passion you put into it. So what's the band's name?
It's called Black Moon Spider. We're still pretty new and getting out there, but we've started gigging and we're having a great time doing it. So it's been fun.
How long have you guys been together for now?
Oh gosh, we haven't even been together for a year yet. We'll be coming up on a year, the end of October, beginning of November.
Okay. I'll tell you this. It's really amazing. Like just the samples that you sent to me and so forth. And by the way, everybody. And I will repeat this. Before we end this episode, I'm going to play a song at the end called Wandering Joe. Did you get that right, Wandering Joe?
It is Wandering Joe, yes. My ghost story song.
And it's a really good song. And it's got some backstory to it that Stephanie could talk about the end before we announce the song. But definitely once you listen to the end and listen to it, and definitely follow her and follow this band. A really amazing. I love her. Me being a musician myself as a drummer was just really highly impressed. I want to say that it's really good and just I have a love for it. So, but Stephanie,
yes, darling.
You have experienced nothing supernatural.
I have.
And you got tons of stories. You have tons of stories.
I do.
You and I've hung together. You've taken a lot of photos, vlogs, and so forth. And as much stories you can share, I asked you about Halloween stories, something that's going to resonate with the people with Halloween. What stories do you have in store for us to share? I want to give you the platform to talk about that, so go for it.
I think one of my creepiest stories and what started me in paranormal was when I was a very small child. I was held by something that looked like my mom, except for, and I could still envision it in my head perfectly to this day. It was that much of a core memory for me, but something held me, looked like my mom, and I remember looking up at it and touching the face, and I mentioned, I was like, Mommy, you're so cold. And it did one of these to me. It said, shh. It gave me the creepiest grin afterwards. I was a really good kid, so I was really obedient. So I instantly shut my mouth. I didn't ask any other questions. I ended up falling back asleep in the arms of this thing. And I remember waking up in this really hard wood chair and my neck was just killing me. I was upset with my mom because I thought, well, geez, mom, you just left me in this hard chair, no blanket, no nothing, which wasn't like her. She was a very nurturing mom. So I was pretty upset with her. But when she told me that I didn't move you, I didn't hold you, I was thinking, what are you talking about? Yeah, you did. And it, when it was happening, I was so little that I couldn't differentiate between what a ghost was and what wasn't. Is all I knew is it's something that looked like my mom and it looked funny and it felt cold. Um, the hue to it was like a whitish green, which I've only seen that in paranormal. I've never seen it before, and I'd never seen it after until I started working in paranormal, where I started actually seeing ghosts and things like that. And it was like, oh, that's a ghost. And I could tell by the color of it. And it's so weird. It's like a weird color that I will never forget. I can't even really describe it. It's like a light luminescent whitish greenish color. But it's not like a dark green. It's like a brighter green. I guess that's the best way to describe it. But that's what started me like with paranormal, because I mean, here I am, a little kid, and I'm growing up in a house where everybody's telling me ghosts don't exist, paranormal doesn't exist. Okay, well, why am I experiencing this then? Why is this happening to me? So it was very, very traumatizing as a kid to go around and have these experiences and feel you're like alone. Nobody got it. If you mentioned ghosts in my house, it was, you're crazy or be quiet or they don't exist. But I knew they did. I'm dealing with it. I'm experiencing it. And years later, my sister ended up going back to my childhood home where I was held by whatever the heck that was. It looked like my mom.
Right.
And people straight up asked her if the house was haunted. She instantly did not want to comment on it. She didn't want to talk to them about it. But we have heard there's been a lot of turmoil in that house since we've moved out. And then there's been I think 3 other people who've lived in it since. And everybody ends up with domestic violence, abuse, and fights in that house, according to all the neighbors, which doesn't surprise me because that's what it was growing up in that house for me. And that's not the only thing I've seen there. I've seen other things in that house as a small child that it was freaky as a child. You don't know if your parents are going to believe you or what's going to happen. So yeah, it's definitely something that started me off on the paranormal, and I couldn't get enough of it after that. I wanted to know why. I wanted answers. I wanted to find out the truth. I mean, typical things when you see something or you have an experience that you can't explain, you want to try and explain it. You want to have other people too that might have had the same experiences as you, because otherwise you feel pretty alone and kind of like outside of like a group, like, oh, I'm somebody who believes in the paranormal and then the rest of the world doesn't. Especially back in that day, you didn't really talk about that a whole lot. You know what I mean? It wasn't till like 80 something when Ghostbusters and stuff started coming out and people started actually getting into more of the scary movies and stuff like that. But prior to then, when I'm a small child growing up, you just didn't talk about ghosts. You did not acknowledge them. You didn't, they weren't real. That's what I was taught. But that's not what I learned at all. Not even close. Not even close.
Let me ask this question. How old were you when that first experience happened that you thought you were your mother? What was your age?
Again, it was such a core memory, and I can remember pretty far back into my childhood. I would have to say I've been no more than 4 years old.
Okay.
I was still small enough for my mom to hold me. I remember there was a hide-a bed that I was originally laying on, and somehow I'm picked up by this thing that looks like my mom and sat in the chair next to the hide-a bed because we were having like a family movie night. So us kids passed out on the hide-a bed. My mom had the wooden chair she was sitting in, before we passed out. So when I woke up to what I thought was my mom, but funny looking, that's just how I addressed it and saw it in my mind as a child. It was just a funny looking version of my mom who was really cold. But yeah, when I woke up and my neck was stiff, I was upset with my mom. I was like, how could you leave me there? And she told me, honey, I didn't touch you. I'm thinking, okay. As a little kid, it was super confusing because at that age, you can't really put together 2 and 2. You know what I mean? You just you don't understand it. And then, of course, naturally, I'm thinking, oh, she's got to be lying to me. There's no way. I know for a fact my mom held me last night, you know? But then, of course, as I grew older and I started having experiences, that's when it was like, oh, I know for a fact what that was. 100%. So,
So, so with that experience that you happened, that was you said that's your I get this right, that's your first experience at 4 years old. You say?
yeah, very first experience.
And you've had multiple experiences, but I'm sure you can tell stories all day why you actually interested in the field, right? So have you tried to figure out what this was in that house? Like you said, the other family members had something happen. Have you just kind of let it go, or just kind of like, I know there's something there, and I'm just not messing. It is. I know it's there. I'm just not trying to.
So for me, I 100% believe that whatever was in my childhood house, whatever was in my house growing up, I believe was demonic. And I have lots of different reasons for that. There was never a residual haunting where something was repeating. It was never anything like that. It was always something super scary or something super weird. And just the anger that it seemed to feed off certain people in the house. When I was growing up, it was my father that it would feed off of. And it always seemed like when there was a paranormal experience, he would get more angry. So say like when my mom held me the next day, he'd be totally a jerk to everybody, and we didn't know why. We didn't even know what would set him off sometimes. So I 100% believe that what was going on in that house was demonic. I moved out of that house at 12. So as far as being able to get any answers, no, I never got any answers. I would love to go back and get answers. I would love to go back and confront it, honestly, and try and get rid of it, because it's still affecting people to this day that live there. So,
Is it local? Where, like, is it near still your area next to the woods?
Yes, yeah, it's actually about 5 miles up the road from me. So very close. Yes, okay. I grew up in Marysville, and it's in a location known as Timberbrook in Marysville. I'll leave it at that because I'm not trying to send people over to their house. But it is in the Timberbrook neighborhood, which is one of the older neighborhoods in Marysville. It wasn't when I was a kid, but it is now because I'm old now. So, but
stop it. You're not old. You're seasoned.
You're pushing 50, so I'm getting there.
Hey, we both have still our color hair. It's
I know, right? I'm not even going to complain about that. Could be worse, right?
It could be worse, and we're both alive and living life in its fullest, right?
100%.
And living life in its fullest. Discussion this journey to be inquisitive regarding the experience you had, the first experience as a kid. So, what are the stories you want to share that you feel has really resonated with you, especially for Halloween? What are the stories you want to share that is just like a big wow for you?
So I think other things that were a big wow is my curiosity really peaked right after I moved out of that house. And I started hanging out with this group of kids that, they were all into ghost hunting and things like that, trying to find ghosts. And so it really interested me. So I started going with them. And at the time, even at, 12 years old, I was still on the fence again about it. Even though I had experiences in my childhood home, I grew up in a very religious home. So there were ghosts, everything's demonic. Right. When I started actually going into hunting at 12, I started to realize that that's not always the case. There are things that replay over and over and over again. And that's what I started experiencing when I started hunting with my friends at 12 years old. I used to hang out with this group of kids and my boyfriend named Shane, and we would go down and hunt for ghosts and, kids stuff. And we would have the same thing happen over and over and over every time we got to this certain property, which was in Everett off of 128th. But it was every time we walked down the driveway, we would hear something walking in the bushes alongside of us. Next thing you know, something would get thrown at us, and us kids would hightail out of there. And it was like that every time we went in. It was never different. It always just kept doing that. It was like every time we went in there. So as far as that started to pique my interest more, and like, hey, maybe ghosts are real and there's something more to this. So I made it a point when I was old enough to start investigating it on my own.
Okay.
Started hunting with with my ex and some other friends as adults, and yeah, we started to capture some pretty incredible things: orbs, EVPs. There's a lot of activity we used to get at Evergreen at Rutgers, around Rutgers Tomb.
Yep, I know.
I have some pretty amazing recordings from there. I have one of a lady who's actually, she sounds like she's got like an English accent, and from what we learned, Rutgers' wife actually has like an accent. She's not originates from here. So I thought that was interesting because you can hear in the recording, one of us knocks on like the tomb door. We pounded on it, trying to like, invite something to come talk to us. And next thing you know, we hear a lady say something we cannot make out. It's 3 syllables. And then she says, "Let the door." And it's the craziest EVP I have to date. One of my favorites. One of my favorites. Yeah. And then right before that, you can hear somebody going like, help me, as we're walking around the outside platform of the tomb, Brooker's tomb itself. So we've gotten some pretty cool recordings, but I think the paranormal thing that hit me the most is what happened with my oldest daughter. And that was the house I lived in off of the reservation. It's like right as you enter the reservation in Marysville. And my oldest daughter, she's about 3 years old at the time. She started telling us she had this imaginary friend named Hallie. And, we didn't think anything of it at first because we're like, kids, little, 2, 3 years old, they're going to have imaginary friends. That's normal.
Mm-hmm.
No, this was not. This turned out to be very unnormal. We learned real quick that this was not an imaginary friend. This was something completely different.
What came to that conclusion that it was something different? Was it because of specific details or like both?
Other people started having experiences at our home. In fact, we had the jam room that we used to play in upstairs. We had it all set up, with black lights and stuff. And we were up there jamming out, doing music. And next thing you know, the whole house just started shaking. And it sounded like somebody had fallen down the stairs, but as if my stairs were like not just one set of stairs, like 10 set of stairs. Does that make sense? Like if my stairs just kept going, like it was too long of pounding for it to be someone falling down the stairs, but that's kind of what it sounded like to us. And I've never seen the guy that we were playing with. His name was Mikey. He got up and he got out of my house so fast. He looked at us. He was like, "Sorry, guys, I gotta go." It was like
like a domino effect, but heavy sounds like going down. Right? Is that
yeah. At first, I thought it was like maybe one of my kids because, like I said, my daughter, she was pretty small. I thought, oh my gosh, there's a kid falling down the stairs. But when I opened the jam room door, the stairs are right there. We're still hearing the sound. It sounds like someone's falling down the stairs while we're looking at the stairs. There's nobody there. Nothing's on the stairs. So when Mikey had seen that, he was like, "I'm out. I gotta go." Like, "Oh, gee, thanks. And we get to stay here. You gotta go. It must be nice to run off." You know what I mean?
So how did you feel about that moment? Mike's freaked out. Mikey's freaked out. But how did you feel? Was there any fear built in you, or was it something like not surprised because of where we're at in the property, or like what was your kind of like thought process with that?
There was definitely some fear at the time. I'm living in the house and there were other things that had happened. My son had told me that he went upstairs and the Barbie doll was levitating and the head was separated from the body. Yeah. And he was about, I want to say he was about 7 at the time that he came and told me that. He went upstairs with his little sister. And my daughter later tells me she's about 4 now because we lived in the house for a few years. We did struggle through it, but she came and told me that she has a friend named Hallie. She has long black hair and a white dress, and she floats up the stairs. And she says, "I don't know how she does that, Mommy." And my hair just stood up on the back of my neck. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, my child is literally interacting with something that is not alive anymore that once was. And she even told me she was buried in the garden. Now, how does a 3-4-year-old know that?
What's up? That's very specific.
Exactly. It's very specific too, to say she has long black hair and a white dress and floats up the stairs. Talk about being creeped out as a mom, okay? Like, and then my ex and I, we got rid of the kids for a weekend. We were going to have a weekend alone and hang out, and we get back and we start cooking some food, and next thing you know, we hear a kid crying. And at first we don't think anything. We're just like, oh gosh, your turn, my turn, like, who's going to go?
Right.
And then it dawned on us, wait a second, we don't got any damn kids here. There's nobody here. So now what?
How was your ex feeling about that? Like, your ex, like, was he freaked out by that? Like,
oh yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah. We both were. We both instantly left the house that particular night. We left. We did not go back to the house. We actually went and stayed over at my mom's house for the night. Then there was another night. Where I fled out my window in nothing but a t-shirt and underwear and 2 kids in their diapers, because I swore somebody had broken into our house. I could hear stuff being thrown around upstairs, and it sounded like somebody was just rummaging through the upstairs of my house. So I didn't even want to check. I just jumped out the window and I started heading down, Marine Drive with my kids, and nothing but a t-shirt and underwear. And thank God this lady stopped and picked us up and drove me to my mom's, who was on the other side of Marysville. But I did call the cops. They went into my house. They said there is nothing there. The only thing they found was every single light that I had, because I told you earlier I had a jam room up there. Every little trick light I had was turned on. That's the only thing they said that they seen, was every light up there was turned on. Every black light, every disco ball, everything was turned on. So,
which is something you didn't do. You're just
no. Yeah. Yes.
Were the cops freaked out, or just baffled?
They were more baffled. They said that they just didn't see anything, and then they were asking what I heard, and I just kept telling them, like, it literally sounded like somebody was ransacking the upstairs. It was pounding. There was pounding going on, and I could hear what sounded almost like voices, So I wasn't taking the chance with 2 little ones, so I just hopped out the window and started running down the road with them. That's how scared I was. Yeah, I've had some experiences, some really, really, really bad experiences, and it's been like that my entire life. Like, I don't understand how people. I just don't. I don't understand how people can get away with having nothing paranormal happen to them ever. How? Like, why me? Why do I?
Well, the thing with you, Stephanie, is like, you talk about the experience you had at around 4 years old, right? And then you go out this house and so forth. And it sounds like there's other experiences that follow you. And we don't know, because here in Washington, there's a lot of native stuff that happens, a lot of paranormal stuff that happens. There's a lot of, you can call it tragedy or rituals, whatever you want to call it. We don't know. But it also could be attracted to people who have a potential. Yeah, I don't know. You would know better than I would, because I won't get multiple times we've had conversations, especially photos and news you see. We can call it cryptids if you want. We can or interdimensional. We don't know. I think there's a parallel between the paranormal, cryptids, and even all across the line of UFOs, UAPs, or AHI aliens that people talk about. But there's some type of fabric within our realm. That there's something there. Now, and who knows? If you get attracted to someone like you who's a little sensitive to that, and obviously your daughter's sensitive to that. Right. So I don't know. All I can do is testify to everyone in the audience that Stephanie has a lot that's going on, and she has tons of stories. Of course, we keep it a limited time because she has so many stories, and we're going to multiple times if she wants to. But here's one thing I will say: when it comes to musicians, like you, myself, even Randy, I was talking about earlier, he's a musician. There's a lot of paranormal that happens to musicians.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I'm not sure if it's because it's a frequency thing when it comes to sound or what we do. A creative thing, I don't know, but when it comes to musicians, that happen. Do have UFO experiences? Some behavior had UFO experiences, like paranormal experiences. I mean, I don't know if you know about that, but that's something I'm just kind of like trying to wrap my hand around. I'm not saying we're those guys; they were popular guys. I'm just saying when it comes to music, when it comes to something that's I call a universal language, somehow
Right.
it's just me. What do you think?
I could definitely see that being a thing, and agree with that, because a lot of the people that I know that have also spoken on having paranormal experiences are also musicians. Now that you bring that to my attention, I'm thinking on it. Yeah, I can see that being a thing. 100%. That's interesting to connect that. I've never thought about that before. I've never thought about that potentially being a connection. So very interesting.
It's just a thought process, right? Again, it's a theory. I can't say it's all connected, but somehow there's a consistency, like a science thing. It's a theory. It's a hypothesis. Like you repeat the same process, direct or indirect, and something happens.
Right.
Something happens. So let me ask you this: with your daughter, has she had any more experiences after the fact, or does she still have experiences, in particular, any other kids?
So no, she hasn't. When we moved from that house, it started like right after we moved in, and then as soon as we left, quiet. She was pretty quiet. It didn't. She did have again later on. We moved into another house in Stanwood. This one had a spiral staircase, and we experienced some really crazy things. Yes. Yes. Yeah, I think there's a connection to that.
The little spiral staircase I like is Indiana Jones and not Rachel Soccer. What is it? The third one. What's it called?
The Temple of Doom one? Is that what you're talking? No. I don't know.
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusades.
The Last Crusades. Okay.
Yeah, but the spiral staircase. Hell no. But anyway, sorry, I didn't remember. But the spiral staircase scared me. But it was good.
I don't know. I still wonder if there's like some kind of connection with that, because everybody that I've ever known that had a spiral staircase in their house had something paranormal go on. I don't know. That was just my thought. Like when you're, curious on how to, make sense of it, like you try to find things that are common ground, you know what I mean? Like, oh, well, you had a spiral staircase. Well, I have a spiral staircase. You know what I mean? You've got this going on. I've got this going on. So like, you really just try to like wrap your head around things. But the stuff that I've had happen is like, I could write a book. It's like, again, why me? You know what I mean? You get people that run around in life, they're like, oh, I don't believe in the paranormal. I've never had anything happen. I'm thinking, lucky, you know what I mean? And to a certain extent, though, because I do enjoy investigating it, but at the same time, I do know that it's dangerous. You do have to be very careful, and you do have to be very centered in your faith and your belief, and very strong in that. So, because you could open yourself up for some bad shit.
So can I ask you a question about this? This is just being me, because I'm still an amateur with investigation. I've always been intrigued about it. But when it comes to actually investigating, it's been since, after personal things that we talked about, like wars and so forth, and one things that I would say is that it's not just about the investigating that's dangerous. Personally, I feel like it's the outcome.
Right.
That's kind of that with that, like because of the residue behind that, depending on the certain investigation.
I could agree with that. I think it's almost like something gets left behind. Mm-hmm. Like if there's something really bad that happened in an area, something can get left behind. It's like a negative that gets left behind. I don't know if it's like taking a piece of paper and drawing on a piece of paper. Well, now you have a mark on the piece of paper. It's never going to go away. It's almost like that in the fabric of time. It's like making a mark on the fabric of time,
Right.
So
with your with your investigations and so forth. Question I'm trying to have here is, what investigations come to mind that have been very profound for you that has an
I'm
impact?
sorry. What did you just say? I didn't hear you. Sorry.
No, it's okay. What investigations as a paranormal investigator for you personally has been a very big resonation, like resonated with you that like I won't experience that has been an impact.
What that's resonated with me the most is what you're
Yeah.
saying? I think that would be in Bayview Cemetery when I was investigating and happened to see a little tiny toddler girl in a white dress. That one, I'd never seen a child spirit before up until this point. I've heard about him. I never personally saw Hallie that my daughter spoke of. I never saw anything like that when I lived in the house. This was the first time I'd ever seen a child spirit, and that greatly bothered me. I cannot tell you how much that bothered me because I grew up believing.
Why did it bother you?
I grew up believing that those who are under the age of accountants go right to heaven. So why am I seeing this little baby girl that can barely walk? And I'm not the only one that saw her. It was myself and about 9 other people that saw her, including my ex at the time. So that's where it was bothersome to me, was like, well, why am I seeing this little tiny baby girl? Shouldn't she be in heaven? That was just my thought process, like, why is she here? And it made me more curious. It made me want to search and investigate more and more and more, because if you've got little ones getting stuck, well, somebody needs to come and help that. You know what I mean? Somebody's got to be brave enough and willing to say, you know what, I'm going to try and get to the bottom of it, or at least figure it out. But then you also have to be careful, because you don't know, is this actually a baby girl, or is this a demon that is posing as a baby girl? And that has been my experience.
Yeah.
That has been my experience with a lot of it. A lot of it is actually demonic, posing as human babies, or posing as human beings that family members, things like that. My son saw something similar to what I saw when my mom held me. And that was in the house with the spiral staircase. I let him have the whole downstairs. He was like 12. I just got pregnant with Jackson, so we were trying to let him have his big boy area. Next thing you know, I see the light flip on downstairs, and I hear him yell, "Mom!" And he comes flying up the spiral staircase, and he tells me that he's seen something that looked like my ex-husband. And he said that it popped up its head up off the corner of the bed. It smiled at him in a very weird smile. And then he said, "Mike, what are you doing?" And it did the same thing. It said, "Shh," to him, and then gave him an evil grin. And then the head started spinning in the wrong direction, which then sent him flying up the stairs. So, yeah, to know like my own child had something similar happen, where something looked like his, at the time, stepdad. That's weird. There was too much coincidences between what I seen at 4 and what he's seen. Does that make sense? Like,
no,
how do we see something similar?
It does, and it just. How do I trick? This? My thought process behind that is it could be some type of familiar spirit having the family.
Yep.
I mean, that's I've heard that in churches and so forth, especially not to get religious, but like the Catholic Church, they talk about familiar spirits. Who knows? And when people out there who ask what's a familiar spirit, it's something that was in contract generations of family prior. When it comes to witchcraft technology, we don't know. I don't know, but it's something that does happen. But let me ask you a question. This is Jackson, right?
This is what?
What's his name again? Jackson.
Jackson is my oldest. Is the one that's seen it. His name is Brett. Jackson is the one I was pregnant with at the time. Does that make sense?
Okay. Has he had any more?
No, not that I know of. He had more experiences in that house, but not after leaving that house. It was the same thing. It was like once we left that house, it got quiet again. It seems like there's just certain houses or certain areas. The weird thing is I can tell now when I'm going into a home if it's if it's got something there. I can tell. I can tell by it just looks darker than it should be. If that does that make sense?
No, it
like,
does. It does. Yeah.
Like you can see there's tons of windows, but why does it still look kind of dark in here? And you get this really weird feeling. It's hard to explain. It's like, I wouldn't say a scary feeling, but kind of like a something's off feeling. Is what you use. Yes, not normal. Something's off.
Yeah.
The lighting doesn't look right. And so I won't even rent a house, check a house or anything to potentially live in if I get that feeling now, because that's what I experienced at the last 2 houses that I had that were haunted, is that same thing. The lighting was different. There was just a feeling of something not being right. It was an uneasy feeling, you know. You couldn't put your finger on it. She couldn't put your finger on it because you had to live there, experience it, then you could put your finger on it, you know. So yeah, I've had so many things happen that I've had to question, well, is it me? Did I do something? Is there something that, are they coming after me, you know? And I don't like mean to say it like that, but you can't help but question these things when you've got some people that are saying like, hey, I've never even had a paranormal experience. Okay, well then why have I had so many? And, you know, people who are around me will attest to this. I've had friends and family who have had these experiences with me. You know, I didn't have all of them alone. So that was the part where it was kind of comforting. It was like, well, you know, welcome to Steph's life. You know, if you're going to hang around Steph, you're going to have something paranormal happen, you know? So, it's just why, I don't know. It could be generational, sure. But again, it seems to be more where I would live in certain places. And these certain places, as soon as we left, it was like peaceful. And then go to another place where it's got that bad feeling, you know, and
yeah,
then you're right back in it. So
I have a thought about that. And, you know, knowing you have a gift. You're sensitive. I won't say the times we've done paranormal and you were singing a little bit. I loved it. I thought it was beautiful. And, you know, and I can say it with your voice. I wonder sometimes that it's not something's wrong with you.
Sure.
Maybe it can also be a threat to those things because of right?
Sure.
And it's like, why, if it's like, if something's wrong with you, why keep attacking something with something wrong?
Sure.
Why will, you know, you go after something that can be a potential threat because of what you're gifted with? I'm not trying to add ego or invest ego. I'm just saying it's one of those things kind of show that in confidence because of those experiences happen with you, but your children, there's some type of gift and what they can do. And it's just maybe those things, right?
Right.
But the hard thing about that is how do you increase the ability to have being that sensitive, I call it, you know, again, not making words, right? Or you know, start more sensitive. But like, I wonder if something like that, where it's like, let's take this and just do these things so they don't pursue anymore. You know,
right?
You know, and it's just my thought. I don't know what your thoughts on that. That's just kind of my thought process.
You know, again, the paranormal, it hasn't been investigated enough, so that's all we can do is speculate and have thoughts and try to find common ground and, you know, make sense of it all. And I think that as far as, you know, human beings, we're not going to get there until we keep on this path. And the longer that we've been at it, the more we're learning.
Right.
As with anything. That goes with anything, you know, like medicine. The longer, you know, medicine goes on, technology goes on, things get better, people learn more. That's going to be the same with paranormal until there's people that are willing to go out there and actually say, hey, look, there are answers, but we have to find them. There are solutions, but we have to find them. You know what I mean? Until that happens, I think we're just going to be stuck. So yeah, at this point, I mean, you could speculate, I can speculate, but we don't know. We have to do more research to know.
I agree with that.
Super important.
I agree with that. Until actually science puts work into it, right? Like we get iPhone. This will be magic.
Right.
years, right?
Exactly. 100%.
Exactly. Until there's actually taken investigation into it to try to create the technology.
Right.
It's what is considered supernatural superstition is not science discovered. I
Right.
mean, science talks about, Adam, what is it called? Atoms, what do you call it? But there's also talk in science of different people with dimension that's really there. And I think it's getting close to that. I think it's like what you guys were talking about. We should take investigations like what you're sharing in a serious consideration.
Yeah. 100%.
And so, and I think for us, especially for you, is that people who I feel like maybe in a couple clairvoyant, again, that's because by your experience, should really investigate that and just see if there's some type of like what makes them so unique in that area. We all have different gifts, right? Some people are good at sports, some people are good at math, some people are good at poetry, but these are gifts that you have that are not being acknowledged. Right?
Sure.
Right? And investigate it, open up our world more than what we have created in this cult form.
Right.
What's your thoughts about that?
My thought is that I haven't really explored much on the potential of having a gift. Again, I grew up in a very religious home where you didn't talk about, people who were psychics, things like that, clairvoyance, things like that. So I've just started to learn about some of that. And I'm not saying that it isn't real. I'm not saying any of that because I can't say that. I have watched people, including myself, have feelings or things happen where I'm like, well, I shouldn't have known that or that shouldn't have happened. And because of that, it has made me question sometimes, well, should I be looking into this more? Is this why this is happening in my life? Or is this something that is passed down? Is this something that is running rampant through my family? And that's why I seen something and my son's seen something and who's next to see something. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yep.
So again, it's all speculation, but I won't get those answers until I search. I have to search. And I think it's human nature to do that though. When you have experience, you just want to validate it and you want to get to the bottom of it if you can. You want to at least try to, you know what I mean? I try to understand it. And that's kind of where I've been in my life. It's like, well, I'm going to start investigating because I do want to understand it. And I do think it's an important topic that needs to be explored more. You look back years ago when I can't even remember his name right now. I had it on the tip of my tongue earlier, but he was the guy that did the seances and he ended up having things come through and he's able to capture it on film. You seen that?
Is it? I don't say it was Edward Casey. I know what you're talking about.
I think it was an experiment that he did, and he was able to actually get definitive proof that yes, that there is life on the other side. So, without people like him willing to go that far and do things like that, I think we'll just stay stuck. But the more people are getting interested in the paranormal, it's becoming more natural to talk about.
Right.
The more we're starting to actually get real investigating going on, real tools to use for investigating too.
Yeah.
You would have told somebody back in the day about a REM pod, they would have looked at you like a what? You know what I mean? They're like, what?
I call it, Egon's little thing. Talk about it. Am I wrong? Egon's device that comes out that flies. Talk about the little thing.
Yeah.
Here. I know exactly what you're talking about. And I think you're right too, because especially with our world now, you got people talking about there's like UAPs and UFOs.
Oh yeah.
Paranormal. It has everything to do with it. I don't care what you say. There's a dimension that opens up. There's a whole parallel. And people are looking for it because our world has become so like there is no good in the world. There is good people.
Sure.
There is good people. Right. I have a whole different subject about theories behind that. I'm not going to go into. But I do agree with you. Until this becomes something that's taking full value of investigating, we need to separate the religion I'm not against religion. I'm not saying God's not real. I'm not saying Jesus is not what it's about. It's about like something deeper than the norm that we're
Right.
and that's when it's mass fear and confusion, right? So anyway, sorry to hijack that, but I would just
No, I totally get it, and I would have to agree that it seems like it's something extremely deep, and you know, religion's kind of off of my box of things now. Let's put it this way: I have a personal relationship. Religion doesn't work for me.
amen.
Because there's a lot of flaw in it. There's a lot that's been hidden. There's a lot that they didn't want us to know because of what we can do ourselves. If we're made up to the image of God, you got to think, that's pretty powerful right there. Like, how much can we actually do? We don't tap into that because we were taught not to. We were taught to not even look at it. That's just my opinion on that. So I stay away from the religion thing now. Personal relationship.
Funny is,
What was that?
well, even the new about it, even if like in the nuclear faith can move mountains and everything does move mountains, and all this stuff. And it's just like something that doesn't get preached or doesn't get shared a lot, but it's something that's like it's right there. It's right there. And I mean, it's like I said, it's kind of a oxymoron, and it's just like I said, we try to use service to religion to make us feel better. Where it's like, listen, we're not bad people. We just make good choices. God knows I am.
Right.
But that doesn't mean we're bad people.
Sure.
God doesn't make none.
Right.
One of the things I want to ask you is, sorry, your camera's off. Any to lighten up a little bit and then end it with a deep message. The first thing is, anything else you want to share for this Halloween episode that comes to mind?
I think I've shared so much that people are probably like, "Oh my gosh, this chick's nuts." You know what I mean? But
no, they're not. They're not going to think that. They're not going to think I'm nuts. Like, look at this wannabe giant cat. So, no, nothing else.
We'll be nuts together then, Chris.
You know what, amen, sister. But here's the last thing that I want to ask you then. Is what message, what do you want to accomplish with the stories you talked about, your beginning of your parents, what your children have gone through, in the investigation that you have done, which has been such a valid, incredible experience for you, that you want to share with people out there that you're hoping to accomplish? What goal do you want to share that you're trying to do? And what message you are looking to on in regards to this?
So what my goal I would like to see happen is that people talk about it more. And like I said before, scientists, real people start coming out and actually start really getting to it and considering how can we investigate this further, and start putting like money into actually, we're talking about life after death, the potential of it. That if that doesn't warrant like some kind of money being put toward it, I don't know what to say. I mean, you've got all this money for all this other stuff, cancer research, things like that, and those are all important, but so should paranormal investigating it and getting to the bottom of, is there life after death? How can we prove that? And I think we're starting to get on that track, but that's what I would like to see out of all of it. That's what my goal is hopefully to help inspire somebody who's having the same stuff go on. Is like, hey, let's get out there and look for answers. Let's try and get to the bottom of this. Let's see if we can come up with answers.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at with that. As far as a message goes, be careful with what you play with. Don't play with things if you don't know what you're doing, because it can turn very, very nefarious really quick if you do not know what you're doing. And even if you do know what you're doing, you can still be a target. But just don't play with things that you don't know with. I think that's the biggest message, is be really careful messing with things. Ouija boards, I don't recommend. I won't recommend that to anybody. Again, that's something you're playing with. You shouldn't be messing with. Nothing good's going to come out of that. What's going to come out that is not going to be some friendly Casper the Ghost spirit. You're going to get anything but. So that would be my message to people out there: is be careful what you play with. So.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. Stephanie, before we end this, and I want you to stay on for just a really to brief afterwards. Does your band have a website at all, or somewhere they can come to?
Yes, we have a show coming up this Friday at the Mirkwood in Arlington. Believe the show starts at 8.
Okay.
And we also can be found on YouTube. We're on Facebook and Instagram, and I think we're starting a TikTok soon, but we're still pretty brand new, so we're just getting on all the platforms. But feel free to check us out.
Yeah, and give the name one more time.
What was that?
Give the name of the band.
It's called Black Moon Spider.
Black Moon Spider. Everybody, come see them. I'll definitely try to find some links for them. Stephanie has some links to put on to the channel. And everybody, before I go, listen to the rest of the episode because we're going to play Wandering Joe. And then we play something with it. It's beautiful. It's heartful. Thank you, Stephanie. And again, on the other side.
And it's a ghost story.
And it's a ghost story. It is. Thank you. And see you on the other side.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
So he lays by her grave. amp up here quite a bit.